Welcome. Today is Monday, April 19th. This is the 56th covenant conversation we've had in a little over 59 weeks of our COVID restrictions and the ongoing pandemic. So we are in year 2. But this is the first covenant conversation that we've gone to a different cadence. Instead of doing these weekly, we are going to a bi-weekly rhythm, and at some point we may even change to a monthly cadence. So I want to continue to express our appreciation to Corey and Preston for making these covenant conversations possible. Do so in a good environment, a lot of clear communication, and continue to be so appreciative of what Dr. Blake did in suggesting this idea now almost 2 years ago. We're grateful for all that the covenant conversations have meant to our community. As you may have heard, in varying details, we did have a couple of Covenant Village residents who were involved in an accident over the weekend. We want to honor their right to privacy, but I would ask that you do lift them up in your thoughts and your prayers, and know that God knows their very important and serious situation, and that God, through all the caregivers and the family that is wrapping their arms around them, that they will be in God's arms in love and care. But if you'd share in a moment of silence in prayer for them together. Amen. Well, let me share with you a brief wellness check of the village. Here's where we find ourselves, past midway through the month of April. Overall, we continue with good news. Currently, we have one active case on campus. This came from actually outside testing, was not a part of the mandatory testing that we're doing. This individual started having symptoms, took the proactive stance of being tested, and the test results came back positive. Good news, this individual is doing well, and in fact, should be back to work tomorrow even. This was not an individual in our health center, but was a staff in other parts of the area, or other parts of our community, and so we're grateful that that individual is doing better. We have seen over the course of the last 4 weeks, 3 staff cases. I started to get a little concerned about that, seemed to be ticking up a little bit, but then I looked over the last 17 weeks and we've had 13 cases over that period, so roughly 3 out of every 4 weeks. What is concerning is the Gaston County percent positive. As you may remember, that is the metric that determines how frequently we do the mandatory testing in the health center. It has, good news, been under 10% for quite some time, but unfortunately, we are seeing over the past month, it's starting to tick back up. And at this point, hopefully Preston will be able to show you an image so that you can actually see how that percent positive has changed over the last 2 years. In particular, when we were at 20% positive and we were having to test twice a week in the health center. Now that we're under 10%, fortunately, we only have to do the weekly testing. But the better news is that we continue to have really incredible success with resident cases. There has not been a resident active case on campus in over 17 weeks, over 4 months. And then when you think about it from the health center perspective, there's been no resident case in the health center for over 18 weeks. In fact, the last active case was December 15th, 2020. So 4+ now strong months of good decisions and great care in the health center and on our campus. We are tracking 3 other employees who are out with potential exposure to the virus. No one is out right now with potential symptoms, which is a good sign. But the active case, having 3 out for potential exposure, and even over the last 17 weeks having 13 staff cases, it does bring it home that the virus is still in our community. It is still alive, it is still active, and we still have to be diligent. So we continue to ask residents and staff to wear their masks as they're out in public in common areas, to maintain the 6-foot distance. Continue to use the good cough etiquette, washing your hands as frequently as possible, hand sanitizer in between, just continuing to do and to make all those good healthcare decisions that you've been making for these almost going into 2 years. We don't have any resident questions this week, but we do have a number of announcements. Sherry and Karen continue to want you to know that they're doing and offering the Wellzesta training on Mondays at 10:30 in the craft room. They continue to have a good group that shows up, and if you need to come back the next Monday or in a couple of weeks, you should feel free to. Just because you've come to the training one time does not mean you can not come back for more. They're there to help you in whatever way they can. Want you to be on the lookout, particularly if all continues to go well with COVID and the community, particular COVID and the virus in our greater Gaston County community, that there's going to be more and more information coming out to you as we continue to open up the campus. And in fact, there are plans for increasing some opportunities, particularly as we move into May. I know Matt's thinking about some things in the Wellness Center. Julie and Michael with dining. We're making plans now to open up the guest room in the B building. And that will be opportunities for your family and friends to come and stay. So a number of things that we're planning. Continue to look for opportunities to get us back to whatever our new normal is. One of the most exciting things to share with you is about Mother's Day plans. You may, by the time you have received the Covenant Conversation this week, you may have received a reservation slip and letter from Julie and Michael and the food nutrition team. We are going to allow special guests to eat with you on Mother's Day. You can have up to 6 for each household at your table. So there will be information, there will be a reservation slip that you can fill out. One thing Julia did ask for me to remind you, as you are filling out that reservation slip, please mark any name of a guest who's under the age of 16. That's some information that we want to be able to track. We want to be able to manage that. So it would be helpful for you to identify by circling anyone that is on your list that is under the age of 16. Well, this is Terry Gladden's last week with us. Terry has given Covenant Village residents, staff, a solid and impressive 9 years of great service as our Director of Finance and Senior Accountant. I am particularly grateful to Terry, not only for the great work that he's done, but he gave Covenant Village a tremendous gift by letting us know well in advance his plans for this new chapter in his life, moving toward retirement. He gave us a wonderful amount of notice, which allowed us to do a really good and thorough search for someone to become our new Director of Finance. And Kim has arrived. And then Terry kept on giving us a wonderful gift by being willing to stay on and to orient Kim with all of the many tasks and responsibilities of his position. So she's had a wonderful training opportunity, getting to know Covenant Village in a really strong way. And as we all know with Terry, he's instructed and taught her really well. So we're grateful for that. So this is an opportunity for you to say goodbye to Terry, give him your warm wishes and best regards for his future. You can do so between now and Friday, April 23rd. So this Friday will be his last day on campus. We'll look forward to celebrating that opportunity with him. But also, we have the opportunity to have a covenant conversation with Terry. So we're going to make some changes in the setup here and then entertain Terry for a few minutes to ask him some questions, particularly about his future and how we can keep connected with him. Welcome back to our covenant conversation. This is our opportunity to wish Terry well as he heads off into a new opportunity, a new chapter in his life for Debbie, him, the kids, as well as the grandkids. One of the true benefits of working in a community like we do in Covenant Village is to have the intersection of our lives with individuals that come and find good work to do and that leave after providing a tremendous tenure of good and meaningful, even transformational work. And it's just one of the blessings of working in a nonprofit environment as well. I often say to people, you just don't happen into a nonprofit job. There's either something that tugged you, pulled you into it, or something that may have pushed you into this opportunity. But it's always the chance to be around good people. And the last 9 years that Terry has given service to Covenant Village definitely makes us convinced of how much good people Terry is. So we're going to ask him a few questions, ask him about his future, and then wish him well in this new opportunity. So Terry, prior to coming to Covenant Village, give us a sense of your professional background.
I spent probably a total of about 27 years in banking. I had a short 5-year stint in the middle of that in the insurance business, but I guess the entire career is pretty much banking and finance, and a lot of my banking career was in the mortgage end, servicing, closing mortgages, but I think ultimately my banking career helped prepare me well to to be here in this position at Covenant Village.
Most definitely, most definitely. So when you arrived in early, I think it was 2012, now tell us, how long did you think you might be staying?
I knew without a doubt, I was blessed to be here, and this was a great opportunity. So I knew all along that I would be here, until this time. I never had any regrets or second thoughts. I'm blessed to be here.
Oh, that's wonderful. I remember one of the first conversations you and I had was that your previous directors and previous accountants here at Covenant had been here basically 7 years. And that was a span that you wanted to be able to break, and you did so with 9.
I'm glad to have surpassed that by 2 years. Enjoyed every minute of it.
That's great. What was one of the biggest changes that you've seen in the work since you arrived in 2012 until now?
I'd say for me that's kind of twofold. I think when I came originally, only about 3 members of the current leadership team were here. So I've seen a change in leadership, and I really see that as a positive because Covenant Village has good strong leadership and some new folks with some good ideas. And I think the second part of that is in the area of technology. When I first came, we were actually outsourcing our technology, and of course, we've made a lot of improvements in that area with the addition of Corey and now Preston. So I think those 2 things have really been a big improvement, big change.
That's
for the better.
Yeah, great. What maybe has meant the most to you about your work here?
Without a doubt, it's just establishing friendships and relationships with the residents and staff. Covenant Village is more than a retirement community. It's a family, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
That's excellent. So we all want to know, what's your near future plans?
Near future, a couple of family vacations planned, a couple of beach trips in May and June, and beyond that, haven't really thought much about it. I know Debbie and I are pretty much homebodies, so we enjoy spending time around the house with the family. So I'm sure we'll do some traveling later on, but for right now, just spending time with the family and a few beach trips and some R&R.
There you go. Much deserved. Sounds exciting. Well, we want you to come back. Obviously, anytime you want, but definitely when we have the retirees luncheon. Love to host you for that time. But truly, we're just so grateful for all that you've done for Covenant Village, the residents, staff. You're easily approachable. It's not always the case with directors of finance and communities or businesses, and that can be an office that people kind of stay away from, but on so many occasions I've seen both residents in there in conversation with you, but also staff looking for your advice, looking for some good direction, asking important questions in their life, and how you handle that and have cared for them is extremely beneficial. Grateful for all you've done for me. You were a significant part of my orientation and learning the ropes around Covenant Village. So I appreciate how you led me on with particularly all of the budget matters that are so important, so crucial to Covenant Village. So we want to send you off with our blessings and hope for just a lot of great excitement and wonderful experiences in this new next chapter in your life with Debbie and the kids and the grandkids. We'll celebrate a little bit later on in the week, but just it's one of these moments where we just feel so good, not only about your opportunity moving forward, but so good about all that you've meant and all that you've done for Covenant Village.
I appreciate it. I appreciate what you've done for me and just the opportunity to be here. I just wish you and the residents and the staff here the very best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, let me give you a quick marketing and admissions update. So our available units at this time, and again, Monday, April 19th, we have no cottages. In fact, all the cottages are either occupied or reserved. In fact, we only had one opening in the cottage, and it has recently been sold. And as of today, we have 6 open apartments, 2 two-bedrooms, and 4 efficiency units. So that marks a tremendous amount of work that Pam and Josh have been doing, and some really strong success recently. Kevin has experienced the same in the health center with direct admits. In fact, we're right at budget for that. That is a great opportunity. So we've had a significant loss this year. You and I have talked about that over a couple of Covenant conversations, and that has been difficult for us. In fact, we're in an extended season of loss at Covenant Village. But these are great signs, particularly as we are turning that corner in the road and moving out of the COVID lockdown aspect of the pandemic. We also have a couple of internal moves that are taking place. So that's a good opportunity for residents to find a better opportunity, something that they may have been interested in even at the beginning, but they wanted to come into Covenant as soon as possible. And then as they had the opportunity to move into something that was more appealing, more room, more opportunities for them. I'll also say we've had a significant uptick in the number of campus tours. So individuals on our wait list have kind of, with the spring season, felt like getting out more, feeling more comfortable coming to campus. So Pam and Josh, as well as Kevin with direct admits, they've been giving a lot of tours. In fact, today during our resident council meeting, I saw in the background Josh walking by the card room giving a tour with a couple. So really great signs. In addition, we had 13 extremely successful wait list discussion groups over the course of about the last 3 weeks as a part of our strategic visioning and master planning processes. We sent out an invitation to the wait list to attend these discussion groups. That invitation went out on a Saturday, and by mid-morning on Tuesday, Brenda had received around 99 phone calls from waitlist members wanting to be a part of these discussion groups. We started out offering 7, and because of that tremendous response, we increased it to 13. And so we've had those 13 discussion groups. We were able to survey over 200 members of our wait list, getting very detailed and specific information about this next level of master planning opportunities that we're considering. Tons of significant consumer research. In fact, David Ratchford, who's been assisting us with this process, says that when you have a pool of over 200 responses, that is significant data, significant research that you know you can be confident in. Let me continue to give you a little update on the master planning process. In fact, the task force, Corey is a member of the task force as a leadership team member, will meet this Wednesday on campus. It is the second meeting for the master planning task force, but it'll be the first in-person meeting. So a really great opportunity for the task force members, board members, and leadership team members to get to meet our professional team of consultants that we have recruited over the past number of months. The early focus of the master planning task force, as well as the work that the professional consultants have been doing, has been to prepare the campus for what will be phase 1 of a multi-phase master planning process. And what I want to share with you as residents is that the first phase, our sole focus, will be on significant upgrades and renovations in areas and for services that you as a current resident will benefit from. And that is intentional. We know that we need to do things, renovate, update, upgrade things in order to improve the care and the services that we provide you. And we are committed to do so. So the task force will be looking at ways to do that and how it can be staged out over the course of a number of months. There's still a significant amount of work that needs to be done to design certain upgrades and renovations. Obviously, for some things, we have to have conversations with the state to get their approval. And then obviously, there is the time that's needed to construct or to renovate through construction those projects. So the Master Planning Task Force will be looking at that overall timeline as well as the financing, the costs for these projects. So I want you to know that phase 1 will be about renovating the B1 hallway in order to add new rooms to the health center. During the initial discussion groups with residents, future residents, our board, and leadership and staff back in 2020, early 2020, the number 1 graded initiative was increasing the number of beds in our health center. And so that is our early number 1 priority. But additionally, we'll be looking at opportunities related to an outdoor pavilion, the front entrance, not only a sign, but we need to tier some of the landscaping with the retaining wall. In addition, we need to improve the service lane that brings in all of the supplies, all of the food products. We need to update that a little bit. That will be a part of the work that we want to do. And then we've committed to upgrades and improvements on the exteriors of the cottages. In fact, I am here to share with you today a very important and exciting announcement. Last Friday, I instructed Russ Craig, our Director of Property Services, to select and purchase replacement windows for all of the cottages on the Covenant Village grounds in our community. So that will be a process that is already underway and will take some time. As you may know, there has been a lag time for construction items. So we may be 4 weeks out, 6 weeks out, could even be 8 weeks out. But the windows are being ordered. They've all been sized up. They will be ordered and they will be installed, we feel strongly, even before the fall season begins. So I know that's important for many of you to hear. It's great news, and I just want to express appreciation to the board leadership, Chairman Tim Efert, for allowing us to move forward in this particular direction. Also want to share with you some ideas and thoughts related to the new neighborhood we recently purchased, the former Smyer property. We recently did what is called a geotech study of the land. We needed to know what the condition of the soil is up on that slope, as well as if there's any rock. And the breaking news to everyone is, yes, there is rock on the Smyer property. But we received a lot of good feedback with this geotechnical report that will provide the architect and the general contractor, as well as the civil engineer and landscaping architect, a lot of good information as they continue to advise us, guide us through the master planning process. One of the things we are looking at is giving the new neighborhood a new name. So if you feel creative and inspired, we'd love for you to send us options, creative ideas for the name of the new neighborhood. Think of it something like this: the blank at Covenant Village, or maybe the blank blank at Covenant Village. Just earlier with the resident council, someone threw out Rocky Top, so the Rocky Top at Covenant Village. The world is your oyster as far as options and ideas. Maybe it's tied to something significant about Covenant Village and our history. Maybe it's tied to something remarkable about Gastonia or Gaston County or this section of the state, or about the current phase of life that we're living, our community. So any ideas, please send them either directly to me or to Brenda, and we will collect those and they'll be a part of a selection process. Let me conclude the informational part of the Covenant Conversation with a brief word on vaccinations. You've probably seen in the news recently more and more conversation about boosters or possibly an annual shot for the COVID virus. And so this is obviously something that is very important to us, and we're keeping our filters out on that and keeping attentive to what is developing. I want to read from you some selections of a New York Times article from today that talks specifically or generally about the booster concept, and then specifically about potential Moderna booster. Moderna is the vaccine that we received here on campus. In part, it reads, booster shots and revaccinations could be needed. Drug companies are planning now for it. Vaccine makers are getting a jump start on possible new rounds of shots, although they sound more certain for the need of such boosters than maybe independent scientists have. One representative of the Pfizer company stated that people may need to get COVID vaccine shots annually, similar to flu shots. Dr. David Kessler, who runs the White House administration's vaccine efforts, told a subcommittee last week, a House subcommittee, that the government was also looking ahead. One factor at play is the spread of the variants. And you and I have talked about these variants. It's kind of the unknown, the outlier in how we may need to make adjustments and changes. And whether current vaccinations are good targets for these mutant strains. So a likely scenario, at least with one of the pharmaceutical companies, is a third dose somewhere between 6 and 12 months from your first vaccination. And from there would be an annual revaccination. Dr. Kessler emphasized the strong efficacy of the current vaccines, including against some of the current variants. But he also said that the government was taking steps to develop next generations of vaccines that will be directed against new variants if in fact they become more effective. And as of Thursday, more than 125 million people in the country had received at least one vaccination, including 78 million who have been fully vaccinated. And I believe I saw something in a state paper that North Carolina is now almost close to 50% of individuals have had at least one vaccination shot. The FDA has said that vaccine developers will not need to conduct lengthy trials for vaccines that have already adapted to protect for these new variants. So that's good news. But on Tuesday, Moderna said that its vaccine continued to provide strong protection in the U.S. against COVID-19, even as much as 6 months after it was given. And so one of the company's chief executives told CNBC that he hopes to have the booster shot finalized by this fall. So just quick information about where we are with vaccines and potential future booster shots with the vaccines. So in closing, I'm curious, where are you on this question? What are your expectations of God? In fact, do you even have expectations for God? Do you expect anything in particular from God? You will recognize that expectations have an important place in our lives. In fact, here in our village, we are built upon expectations. We are called Covenant Village. The true sense of covenant is that of a two-way street, not only of expectations, but of promises made. You have expectations of Covenant Village. Covenant Village has expectations of you. You made promises to Covenant Village. Covenant Village has made promises to you. And so we all are in this covenant relationship. And that changes how we relate one to the other, how we interact, how we treat one another, how we even trust one another, how we hold one another up. But back to my initial question. What are your expectations of God? One of the beautiful things of the biblical narrative, biblical scripture, is that it gives us so much information. We have an intimate understanding of who God is and how we can relate to God. And that's one of the true gifts of the book of Psalms. They teach us how big, how complex, but also how mature and how relational God is with us. And I believe you would agree that as we read through all the Psalms, that the psalmist had expectations of God. Here may be one of those for you and I to honor and appreciate today. This comes from Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. I'm taken by the 13th verse. I will remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. Covenant Village, we are held together by the God with whom we are more than confident in and who will demonstrate goodness to us even as we wait for God, even in this time of need. I'm going to change how I end these covenant conversations. No longer will Covenant Village finish strong. Covenant Village is strong. Indeed, we not only began this together, we have now, in our own unique way, truly started to finish this together. Living longer, better, confident because we see the goodness of God in the land that we live each and every day. And we continue to wait on that goodness and to wait on God. And we do so together. Covenant Village strong for years and years to come. Amen.